Hello and welcome to Wednesday evening. We are talking about the school selection process this evening, and I'm so glad you've decided to join me. My name is Philippa Fabry. I'm an education consultant here in Gqeberha, and we are really talking about something that is relevant at this time of the year. It's February, March, and most of the schools at the moment are doing their open days. So it's open day season or show house season. And this is where you as parents are attending those events. I promise you now, the schools are polishing their trophies in their cabinets. They're pruning the hedges, polishing the floors, preparing their PowerPoint presentations. And why shouldn't they? Because as you know, when you sold a house or when you're busy trying to sell a house, you want people that are coming to see your house to get the best experience. So, yeah, I think traditional schools can be very selective here in our city. We have some very good schools. I know of certain high schools where they have space for about 200 grade 8s, for example, and they get over 1,000 applications every year. Our public trade school has space for about 130 students, and they receive over 500 applications every year. So really, we've got to think about what happens to those students, those young people who don't get accepted into those schools. And especially if you have a child or a young person with additional needs or different needs, your options become so much more limited. So let's look at where are you in the process of looking for a school or selecting a school. Is your young person right at the bottom, the beginning of the journey? So when you look at starting off school, it's bottom of the staircase, and they are looking for the next step on. And maybe you are changing schools. Maybe your child is getting to the end of primary school and now you're looking for a high school. So wherever you are, this is where you're meant to be, and I'm really hoping that you will find some valuable information. And when should you start applying? When should you start looking? And because parents contact me and they ask about my recommendations or what my thoughts are with regards to certain schools, and I know that sometimes we don't always get it right, and you'll find a young person who's in a school and possibly they're not doing very well. And we, Education Services, has created a school selection blueprint, which will be available for anybody who would like to have a look. I'll mention it again at the end, but it really does indicate 5 specific stages or steps that as a parent, you're doing your research and you are looking, and this is where you should start, and these are the questions that you should ask to make sure that the school you've selected for your child is a good fit. So this little advert for tonight's talk, I decided to call it Choosing a School for NEMO. And whether Nemo is in a little fishbowl all by himself, or in a tank with a few other fish, in an aquarium with other types of sea creatures, or maybe he's in an aquarium that is connected to other aquariums with tunnels, and the fish can kind of flow in between the different tanks. Or Nemo could be in the ocean, which is a very large and intimidating place for a tiny little fish. So he's a little fish in a very big pond. And we've all been there. We've been there ourselves. We've moved schools. Think back in the day when we were at school. It's very different today. And we have a lot more options, which is a good thing, I suppose. So I'm going to use my little funnel here just as a picture to show how I see the schooling system. And obviously our children go in at the top, and I don't know the numbers, but I know that there are tens of thousands of grade 1s that start their schooling at the beginning of the funnel, and we wanting them to go all the way through, and at the end of the funnel they leave school in grade 12 and they complete the year, the 12-year journey or 14-year journey, depending on where your child starts. But it doesn't always work so smoothly. And I also want to bring in my little plant and talk about our plants. When you buy a plant, it's the same situation. You buy a plant, and it very much depends on the type of plant where you should plant this plant or where you should place this plant. Some plants like the sun, some like the shade, some prefer lots of water, some don't like too much water at all. They need different types of soil, they need to be spaced. Some plants like to be spaced wide apart, some like to be spaced together. Some need a lot of fertilizer, some not a lot. So you see where I'm getting it. All depends on the plant. If a plant isn't doing well, we don't punish the plant. We change the environment. We move it somewhere else, or we change what we're doing, or we make sure we've read the instructions when we buy the plant and make sure that we've planted it in the best spot. And it's the same with our children. So we've got to look at various aspects of our children when we pop them into a school. We've got to look at the age of the child. So is he just starting off school? The young person is starting off school. What are their abilities, their skills? What is their aptitude like? How's their attitude towards school? Are they excited to go to school? Is there a little bit of anxiety there? And what is their affect? How's their emotions? Are they excited? Are they hesitant? Are they positive about school? Or are they struggling to get up in the morning and they don't want to go to school? So it very much depends on the person. When you look at a school, and again, the child might be too young to be involved in this selection process, but the older children, I think they should be involved. There should be some kind of discussions happening with your child when you're looking at a school. So obviously when you are looking for a school, what are you looking at? How are you selecting a school? Are you looking for a school that is highly regarded, with strong traditions, a school that can open doors for your child, that offers lots of opportunity, that might have a strong sporting culture, or a legacy that you've seen famous people, celebrities, or mentors, sporting icons going through that same school? Does the school have an active alumni? Does the school employ the best teachers? These are all things that, yes, obviously you must look at as a parent. You want to make sure that you are giving your child the best possible learning environment. But that might not be. That particular school that you have in your mind might not be right for your child. And it's okay to make mistakes. For sure, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to say, listen, we've possibly done a mismatch here. Our child is possibly not in the right environment. It might have been in the right environment for us when we were at that school, or possibly it might have been the right environment for a sibling, but maybe it's not the right environment for your particular young person. So even if I look at my own situation, and me being an education consultant, you'd think I would have got it right. But our son moved schools 9 different times, 9 different schooling environments along the way. And we had lots of bumps and rocky rides along the way. But it's okay, because if we had not listened to him, if we had not looked at the signs, if we had not spoken about other opportunities, other options, it might have been, or the turnout of it might have been very different. We don't want our kids to go through school feeling battered and bruised. We don't want them to have scars, because those scars could be there forever. And you ask people who possibly didn't enjoy school, and you ask them, did you enjoy school? How were you? What were you like at school? And if they didn't, they'll say something like, I wasn't very good at school, or no, I spent way too long at school. I didn't get the necessary support. They might say things like, I had to repeat a year, or I was bullied, hated the rules and regulations. felt victimized, even possibly felt victimized by a teacher or a coach. Maybe they were forced to take subjects that they didn't enjoy, or didn't even have the aptitude for. So that's also something to consider, is subjects, because some schools are specialized with certain subjects. I know not all schools, and again, I'm just talking about high schools now. I'm talking about when your children select subjects for matric. Some schools don't offer those specific subjects. So, for example, your child is excelling at art and you would like them to take visual arts for matric. They might be wanting to do graphic design, they might be wanting to do the GED, and those are specific subjects. And if that school doesn't offer those subjects for 10, 11, and 12, what then? Your child might not have an aptitude to do core maths. They might need to do the maths literacy subject. And it's important to make sure that the school offers that alternative. Most schools do. Quickly, let's look at the different schooling options though, because since COVID, we have been exposed to many different options. Back again in our day, and I'm giving my age away here now, you had brick and mortar schools and you went along to school and that was the way it was. Obviously, you could have gone private schools, you could have gone public schools, but there weren't too many choices in terms of the type of school. Now, let's start with NEMO again. So you've got little NEMO and you are wanting NEMO to stay safe and protected and to possibly do a homeschooling type approach. So you can apply for your child to be homeschooled and you keep them at home and you are the main educator or facilitator as the parent. That is homeschooling, and you can have textbooks or a curriculum that is paper-based, but you can also have a curriculum that is online. And then you remain the main educator for that child. That is homeschooling. The other option that I see parents asking about is whether they can homeschool but have somebody else do the schooling, whether it's at home or whether it's at a homeschooling type center. And this just takes some of the pressure off the parent then, because now, although you are responsible for homeschooling, that is not your sole focus. You could get an educator or a tutor to be taking that off your shoulders so that the homeschooling is still happening, but somebody else is managing that. And again, that could be done through a textbook or a worksheet or a paper-based curriculum, but it can also be an online option. And while we're talking about the online, I'm sure you've heard virtual schools being mentioned as well. So virtual schools means, again, the child is sitting somewhere, whether it's at home or at a learning center, but there are teachers on the screen that are doing the teaching. So it's live teaching happening virtually. Sometimes there might be pre-recorded lessons, sometimes there might be additional worksheets that are posted to the child, but an online school means, or a virtual school means, that those teachers are teaching virtually. So that's another option that parents are looking for. They like the live teaching happening where at least the child is being engaged and not just sitting stagnant, staring at a screen, doing work on their own. There are other children in the class virtually, and the teacher is teaching virtually. Then you have children attending a non-traditional school, but they're still going to school every day. And in that kind of situation, you're looking at schools like your Montessori or your Waldorf, where they're following a slightly different curriculum or a slightly different way of teaching that our mainstream traditional schools are using, but they might bring in different curricula there. So they might decide they are not going to be doing CAPS, they would prefer to be doing a Cambridge curriculum or even sometimes the GED, which is an American curriculum. And those children then write external exams with the external examining body. So they don't write our government exam when they get to grade 12, they are going to be writing a Cambridge exam, which is an international accredited exam. The other option, obviously, is an independent traditional school where the classes, again, are a lot smaller. There's more intimacy, there's more personalized education happening. Generally, those independent schools are quite highly academic. The competition is quite strong, but the children still have to wear a uniform, most of them. There's still teaching hours happening between 7 and 2 or whatever it is. There's still subjects, there's still schedules and timetables, and it's pretty much traditional, but it's the independent route. And again, those exams sometimes are set by an independent examining body, the IEB, or the children can write CAPS, the external government exam. And then the last one, I think, is the most common one, is children attending our government schools, our public school system, which, again, like I said before, in Port Elizabeth, we are very fortunate that we have some very, very good schools. And I think this is why parents want to apply almost 2 years prior to their child or their young person actually starting school, to make absolutely sure that their children get in. So our schools, our traditional schools, are run by the Department of Education. They write the CAPS matric exam, and it's a traditional approach starting from grade 000, going right up to grade 12. And those are the options. So we looked at homeschooling, we looked at learning centers, we looked at the online or virtual schools, we looked at your different non-traditional schools, we looked at your smaller independent traditional schools, and then obviously our larger public schools. I don't know if there are any comments or questions. I feel like I'm rushing through, but I do want to just say to parents that if you ever are in doubt about your child and how to match your child with the right school, like I said, we do have this school selection blueprint that really breaks up this big process of school finding into simple steps to follow, with specific questions that you need to ask, things that you should be doing as a parent to make sure that you've dotted every I and crossed every T. And I think, when you've gone through that and you make sure that you have really thought very hard, you've done your research, you've visited schools, you haven't just pitched up on open days, because when you pitch up on open days, you will be impressed. That's the point. But you almost need to pitch up when they least expect you to. And you need to be doing your due diligence behind the scenes. So ask other parents that are there, look at their Facebook pages, look at their websites, try and get as much information from the school as you can behind the scenes. The other thing that I want to say is that children do change. Your child that starts off school in grade 1 and develops a little personality and a character and different skills and interests is going to be a different learner when they get to high school. Not all children do well in large groups. Maybe originally they were, the extrovert, kind of busy little person that was easily, got on well with everybody and was very easygoing and what have you. And possibly that little character changed along the way. And so maybe the larger schools or the more rigorous schooling situations don't always work or didn't always work so well. And now maybe you need to look at a different approach. So it's just important to bear that in mind, that children change, but schools seldom do. For a school to change its tradition, its approach, might take years before something like that is implemented. And it's important to just bear that in mind as you looking at your child and looking for the right fit. So how do you know if your child is struggling? What do you look at from a parent point of view? What are their 5 indicators? And I always say it's not just about the work. It's not just about the school report that comes home at the end of the term. That's the one indicator. The one indicator would be that the child is making good progress. And the comments on the report are generally positive from teachers. So that's the one indicator. The second indicator is that your child is accepted by his or her peers and has friends. They don't need to have a huge group of friends, but as long as they have a little tribe that they hang around with and they feel accepted within that group of friends. The third indicator would be the relationship between your child and the teachers. So as long as that relationship is going well and your child works well with authority and isn't pushing against the system, is able to follow the rules and routines to a degree, of course, but understands that there are classroom rules and regulations, and it's important for him or her as a person to follow those so that teaching can happen. So the third thing is the relationship between your child and their teachers. The fourth indicator is that they have a healthy attitude towards their work and towards their school. So how's the work ethic? Are they putting in enough effort? Do they want to do well? Are they positive about going to school? Or is there pushback in the morning that they don't want to go to school? Or even what we're seeing now with our teens, there's school refusal, where they just are not willing or able to go to school. It becomes so overwhelming, so anxiety-provoking that the systems just shut down and there's a complete breakdown between the learner and the schooling environment. The last thing then is that your child or your young person is participating in other programs after school. So it's not just about the work. It's also about their ability to find their niche in it, whether it's sport, whether it's cultural, whether it's chess, whether it's debating, whatever it is, that they are part of something bigger in the community, not just the work from 8 to 2. So those are the 5 indicators. So look at your child's kind of holistic approach to school. Are they making good progress? Do they have friends? Do they feel accepted? Do they get on well with their teachers? Do they sort of follow the routines and the rules? Do they have a healthy attitude, a positive attitude towards school? And do they participate in school outside of the classroom, outside of the schooling program? So when a problem does crop up, folks, the important thing here, and I'm going to close with this little analogy again of the fish. So when a problem does crop up, listen and investigate. What can be done? What is there? What is happening? What is the trigger? What can be changed? What can be implemented? What options are there? Discuss that with the staff, with the teachers, and say, can we monitor? Can we put these changes in place and then monitor in 3 or 6 months' time and see if things have changed? And then obviously if things haven't changed and it's becoming more and more difficult, that's when we need to possibly look at an alternative. It's impossible for a child who is feeling threatened and is in survival mode for 35 hours a week. We're looking at children being at school for 7 hours a day, plus minus. That is 35 hours a week. That is a long time for a child to be feeling uncomfortable, to be feeling out of breath because they are so anxious. Nobody can learn when they are in that kind of situation. Literally, they are in survival mode. So remember the little fishbowl analogy, and we looked at Nemo jumping out of the fishbowl. So where is he going? What is he hoping for? Is he looking for the next mass of water? Is he going from a little fishbowl into a big aquarium or the ocean? Or is he just wanting to escape? And he might land on the ground outside of the fishbowl. So folks, speak to your children. Speak to them and listen to what they're saying. They are the best people to hear, or for you to hear what is going on at school. Don't force them to live out your dreams. Let them be part of the school selection process. When you go to open days, take them along with you. Ask them, how does this school make you feel? Can you see yourself as a pupil here, wearing the uniform if they have one? Do you think this school is different to the school down the road or the other school that we saw last week, and why? What are you able to bring to this school? What gifts, talents, strengths are you going to offer the school? How does this school benefit from you being there? And then the last thing, is there anything that intimidates you or frightens you about this school? I think that's probably the most important question to ask. So folks, I hope you found this useful. If you are interested in that school selection blueprint, please email info@educationservices.co.za and just pop in the subject line blueprint, and I will send that straight along to you. It's 5 steps, 5 easy steps, questions to ask, and if you follow that, carefully and go through each step, don't skip out steps, and don't choose a school because of convenience. Choose a school because it's the best school to match your little NEMO. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are wanting to chat more, please email me or send me a WhatsApp. Have a great evening, and next month, March, we have a new theme. So keep tuned, and we will hopefully see you soon. Have a great evening.